Welcome to Courtside Moms. I'm your host, Wendy Sparks. Today, I have the utmost pleasure of speaking with Linda Shanklin, the mother of Andre Iguodala of the Miami Heat. Welcome, Linda, and thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you, Wendy. This is so exciting. I am so happy to be a part. Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. The reason why I do the show is because I like to show fans and just the public what really the trajectory of a basketball player is and how they get to the league and who actually helps them get to the league to play pro basketball and all the wonderful things they do in life. And we figured the only person that can really give us the truth is the mamas.
Get it from his mama.
That's right. So let's talk about the things that the fans probably don't really know about Andre. So let's talk about, where did he grow up?
Andre grew up in Springfield, Illinois. Me and his stepfather, we still reside here. And so he spent all of his life all the way up until college here in Springfield.
Okay. Was he athletic?
He was very athletic. This dude and his older brother, they were in everything. But, their background, myself, and my younger brother, we were very athletic. And so that's all they were surrounded by was sports. And Andre and his brother did everything. They did karate, they did swimming, they did flag football, they did full contact football. They flirted with golf and basketball and a little bit of soccer. They did everything, track.
So, Mom, were you an athlete too?
I was good too.
Let's talk about what you did.
I played basketball, volleyball, and track, and I went as far as junior college with basketball. And the team that I played for, Southeast Spartans here in Springfield, we still hold the record. We went as far as super sectionals, and Jackie Joyner Kersey, the Olympian, I played against her and her sister, and they beat us in super sectionals. And so we still hold that record at our high school that we went that far. And so I was just very athletic. I'm still, a sports fanatic.
Right.
I love sports. I even watch rugby. I watch golf. I watch track. I watch year round. I watch sports. My favorite TV channel is ESPN.
Wow. So I guess we know where Andre gets his sports ethics from.
Oh, definitely. Very competitive. He's just competitive, just like I am. He's very competitive.
Where did he fall in love with basketball? At what age?
Around fourth, fifth grade. More fifth grade. He kind of where our living situation at the time. We stayed in an apartment above my mom, and my mom's immediate family, and as well as my siblings, is a bunch of women. And I am the only one with the most males. And I was not going to have them sitting around a bunch of women. And so we lived around the corner from a housing complex, a housing development. General term is projects. I don't like projects. And it was like, I bought a ball, go around the corner and get in trouble, go learn how other people live besides all these women in this house with our women issues. And so he and his brother playing pickup ball with the kids in the neighborhood. And there was a community center there, and the worker noticed Andre and his brother out there, but he took to Andre rather quickly and was basically like, this kid looks really good at this young age. And so, like I said, more like fifth grade, after much discussion and threatening that my baby better not come up hurt, Andre actually started playing for the 6th and 7th grade team, and it just kind of took off from there.
Wow. Did you recognize his talent at that age?
I not so much basketball, but did I recognize that there was a skill set that he had that would produce whatever he put his mind to, whatever he committed to. I always felt like he would be good at whatever he chose to do.
Let's move forward to high school. Where did he go to high school?
Here in Springfield at Lanphier High School, which is really the MBA school of Springfield. Yeah. We have two individuals who who are alumni. Ed Horton, who at the time played for the Washington Bullets, which are now the Washington Wizards, and Kevin Gamble, who is one of the, I'm not sure of his position with the Toronto Raptors, but he is like on the staff with the Toronto Raptors. But Kevin played for, his most memorable years were with the Boston Celtics, and he won a championship with them, but he also played for the Miami Heat. So he went to the MBA high school.
Oh, okay. Well, we know he was a great athlete, but did you have to push him academically?
I did not. That was not a compromise. Education was not a compromise. I did not. I was a very stern mother, and I was a single mom, and so I did not play when it came to academics. What I instilled in them was the same person that was on that basketball court that would give you 10 to 12 points, 5 rebounds, 6 or 7 assists, whatever his stats were, that's the same butt that sat in the chair in the classroom. And I expected those same results. And I did not waver on that at all.
Well, you did great, Mom, because he was on the, during high school, he was in the National Honor Roll. Yes. And athletically, he was Athlete of the Week a couple of times. So That's right. It's good that he was able to balance the two.
Yeah, he did a good job. And to keep them motivated and engaged, I started back college while they were just about junior high school, middle school, junior high school. I went back to school. And because we are so competitive, we competed for grades, which they did not understand. At times when Mom bought a CD, it's like, okay, Mom working 2 full-time jobs and going to school.
Well, he was getting a lot of attention during high school, which led him to a couple of offers for college. So let's talk about your decision to narrow down the colleges that were calling, and where did you go and why did you choose the college that he went to?
Well, he played for an AAU team real quick out of Chicago, which was a challenge because, money was real tight, and getting him back and forth to Chicago to compete, as well as on the AAU circuit, you're traveling all over the United States. And so he started off having to travel by himself, in which, Andre was equipped to do that. And so at the national championships in Florida, Andre hit the game-winning shot and his team won the national championship. So at that time, it was maybe 4 or 5 schools that were looking at him, and that turned into 30 schools that ended up getting in looking at him. And so, after much, Dre pretty much knew where he wanted to go. He already knew. And so it was like, we're going to take these 5 visits. We got 5 opportunities to get this one school right. So we took all 5, and we did Arkansas, we did Kansas, and I'm writing it down so I can get it right. And we did, who was the other school? Arkansas, Kansas. We did Boston College, and we did Arkansas, Kansas, Boston. I forget the other 2. Arizona. Yeah. And it was one more. And I forgot. It was so long ago. I forgot that. But out of the pick of 5, Maryland was in there. Maryland was in there for some reason. I think they ended up giving away the scholarship, but we ended up going with Arkansas. He always wanted to play for Arkansas. Okay. His uncle, my younger brother, he called Uncle Buggy. They still call him Uncle Buggy. My brother Sam was a huge Arkansas fan. So practically Andre grew up watching Nolan Richardson and the Arkansas Razorback. And so after all the 5 visits, we chose Arkansas.
And then that didn't work out.
No, that did not work out. Nolan got fired.
Yeah. Which led him to Arizona, right?
My husband pushed him to Arizona. Leonard stepped in and was like, Dre, Arizona, you need to go to Arizona. Because Arizona basically, I mean, Lute Olson at the time, I mean, he produced the best talent. And so my husband pushed, and Andre, he said, yeah, because we were not going to bring any new schools in. We were going to stick with the 5 that we had already interviewed. Right. We had already became familiar with their programs, visited the campuses. And so Andre agreed. And so he settled on Lute Olson at Arizona, and it turned out to be a real good fit for him.
Okay, so he did, I believe it was 2 years at Arizona. He was freshman year, which he was top player, then sophomore, and then the decision to declare.
Yes, that was crazy.
So what made your family decide at that point that he should declare and try?
Well, it was actually Andre and my husband that decided that, and I was held hostage. Andre came home after the end of his sophomore season, and I knew something wasn't right because I was in my bedroom looking at TV, and Andre and my husband came in, and they locked the door, would not let me out the room, and basically we began to have this conversation of Andre, it's time for him to go, to the league. It's his number, which I understood. When it's your time, it's your time. You got to go. You can't miss that window of opportunity. The struggle for me was I wanted Andre to get one more year to assure me that he would graduate college,
right? Because
it was still important for me that he that he got his degree. Because I was still reflecting back, Brown University was one of the schools that was looking at Andre. Although they were not a basketball school, Brown was looking at my baby.
Like, wow.
So after much, really prodding at me and just getting over, okay, Mom, I'm going to go back and get the degree. I promise you, but it's my window. It's time for me to go. And so it was like, okay, well, let's do this. What all do we need to do? Because Andre's a person that he does his homework. When he commits to something, he's committed wholeheartedly. He does his homework. What is A to Z? What is 1 to 10? And so he had pretty much had everything set up, and all we needed to do was just be there and be his parents and be supportive.
So at this time, I'm assuming you started looking for an agent.
Right, we did. And Andre basically had them lined up. He was like, that was one of the things that he kept saying to me while they were holding me hostage. Mom, I got everything taken care of. All you got to do, because, he's 19 years old. The only thing you got to do is just come with me and just be there with me and just pay attention. And, if there's anything that he missed that I needed to pick on or whatever, because my background is contracts, and as well as my husband. I did for 23 years, I did construction administration. Mm-hmm. And so he was like, I got everything straight. So we lined up the 5 agents the same as we did with the schools.
Right.
And we interviewed all 5 agents. And we settled on Rob Pelinka, who was Kobe Bryant's agent, and that worked out great too. That was just amazing. We did Rob last because Andre knew we were really going to like him.
Right.
And so my husband kind of was like, okay, if Rob is that good, we'll interview Rob last.
Right.
Because if he's good, he'll still be there. And so we interviewed Rob last, and we knew before we left California it was going to be Rob.
So when you're going through the process of choosing an agent, what were you looking for?
We were looking for someone that, number one, most of these agents are lawyers. So contracts is okay. That's good. You understand contracts, but understanding what are you going to offer my son in terms of his career beyond the league.
Right.
Because what we understood, this was a business. Andre was getting a job.
Right.
We were not looking for an agent that was looking to line his pockets, but forget about that my son would have a life after basketball. So we wanted to, each one of them had an opportunity to present how they were going to treat Andre as a client, from the perspective of endorsements, from the perspective of what was their relationship with the various teams that they would be contacting or that would be interested in Andre, that would help mold and build his career in basketball, and even that beyond. And even from the perspective of spiritually, right. Where were they at from a spiritual standpoint? Because Andre grew up in a deeply rooted, God-fearing home. And, we ran into, for example, an agent where they split us up. They took up, the older people took us, the parents, to a certain place, and then they took Andre somewhere else. Andre caught a cab and came back. And he was like, no, these guys are going to spend my money. Yeah. And so Andre was not someone that was into stripping, going to strip clubs. Andre was not someone who drank. Andre was not someone who did drugs. So that sort of thing was not Andre. So, of course, that agency was totally out. But what did you know about Andre?
Yeah.
And how would you put together a plan for him through his usefulness in the basketball field and then his usefulness beyond? Right. And Rob was able to put that together.
So now at this point, you're noticing that your family's life is changing just a little bit now, because now your son is about to be a celebrity. So how do you balance now your life, your personal life, with your basketball life, and at the same time raising Andre, who is going to be soon celebrity Andre?
It's easy to, when we sit and we talk to families now, whether I'm doing an interview or I'm talking to another NBA mom or, whatever, it sounds so easy because I've already gone through it, but it wasn't easy. What we did as a family, we got together and we discussed where we would fit in.
Right.
With Andre understanding this was your dream. This is what you wanted to do. I didn't wake up one day and wanted to be an NBA player, or, at the time we didn't have WNBA. So it was understood, again, this was a business. This is you investing in you, and we will support you until you become self-sufficient and independent, and you can make your own decisions. But until that point, this is your life. This is what you want to do. So we remain parents, and we didn't step outside of that mold. And it was understood and had to be reminded a few times, I'm not your damn fan.
Yeah.
I'm your mama, and I will always be your mother, but I stayed in the place of a mother.
Right.
We were much more comfortable with remaining that sense of normalcy, that place where he could come out of this world of hype, and he could come back and just be comfortable with us.
Right.
Because at that time we had when he first went into the league in 2004, we started his basketball camp. Well, we started his foundation, and part of it was a basketball camp. And I didn't take over the foundation until maybe after 5 years, and I started running the camp. And he would come home every year for the camp, but he would come home. And when he would come home, I would still cook for him. We would still, he loves Monopoly. We would play Monopoly, Connect Four. We were the balance. We were the normal part of his life. And we never got outside of that. The challenge was when we went out in public and we tried to navigate that, because his world, I mean, it was still a part of our world.
Yes.
And so the new normal was going to the grocery store at, between 2 and 4 o'clock in the morning, cutting the grass. We had 100-watt bulbs outside, so we could cut the grass at midnight. And so,
wow.
And we had just built a home before Andre. In 99, we built a new home. And so Andre got a chance to stay there for 2 years. And we were determined, I was determined, I didn't want to leave my house. I mean, we made a lot of sacrifice to build that house. And so it didn't work out. We had to move. But even now, Andre does speak on, he enjoys that when he wants to come out of that NBA limelight, I can go back home and everything is just normal and regular for him. And we've always tried to keep that environment for him.
Yeah, that is so important, because the NBA is such a busy, busy life. You know what I mean? They have no downtime just to be themselves. So it's good that they're able to go home and just be who they were before.
Like, and that's what he likes. And he flies me, different places that he's lived. He'll fly me and his stepdad out. And it's just a way of, I just need to connect to something normal, like for Thanksgiving sometimes, depending on if he's traveling or not, I'll go out and, fix what he likes for Thanksgiving. It's like, I want my mama, I go from mom, mommy, mama, mommy, or something like that. It calls me. And so each one of them has a meaning behind it. And so when it's mama, mama, come out here and fix me something to eat. So it's like, okay. So I'll still travel and do that with him sometimes.
Oh, that is so special. My son and I, we FaceTime cook now.
So we grew up, with growing up with all these women, my aunts, my mother's sisters, my sisters, his aunts, even my brothers. We all, my mother is from Arkansas, so she's Southern roots. And then, this woman can cook. So they grew up around cooking, and Andre and his brother, they are great cooks. Wow. They just kicked me to the curb with barbecuing. I was the barbecue queen at one point, not anymore. They are the barbecue. My oldest son is the pit master.
Wow.
And so, yes, he's here. I have the meat all lined up, and I do my own rubs. And so the meat's got rub on it. And so when he's rested, I need him out on the grill.
Okay. So you know what? Let's just go back to draft night. I want to hear all about your family's draft night. Where were you guys? What'd you do? Linda, what'd you wear? Just go. I want to hear it all.
Andre, LV, I think they're still around. They made his draft suit for him. As a matter of fact, the majority of that draft, I think they made those guys suits. Mm-hmm. And so Andre surprised me because he was working out in Chicago for the different teams. And he pulled me into his hotel room. I'm in Springfield, so I'm only 3 hours south of Chicago. It's like, come on up. I need you to take a look at this suit, make sure I'm good. And so I get there, and they've got all these different, what I think is female color patterns and stuff. And it's like, so I know you're not wearing that. And he's like, no, I'm going to have them make you a suit. And so that was like, oh, okay. I've never had a custom made suit. I've hyped up, but not custom. And so I wore a fuchsia color suit. It was a skirt. And I had a bit of weight on me, and I wanted to be cute. So I said, okay, you're going to have to do a second measuring because I'm getting this weight off. I didn't realize how much weight I had lost because I didn't get a chance to go back because I was still working.
Right.
And I didn't get a chance to go back and get that second measurement. And so we're in New York, and I go to the ladies' room to try the suit on, and the suit is so big. It is so big. I'm like, and I'm not gifted up top, so I couldn't make up that room. And so what no one sees in the pictures or on TV is all the pins that I had in me so that the suit would fit. But it was an absolutely gorgeous suit. They dressed me the same as they did Andre. They had even bought me a pair of shoes. I had bought my own shoes, and they had my jewelry, and then my hairdresser was I was not a hair person. I shaved all my hair off and dyed it platinum, and that was easy. And so, but draft night Andre just made it so easy for us. When I say Andre did his homework, all we did was just show up. Right. And we were just there for him. We love to read. We love to learn about different cities, states, cultures, and we're deeply rooted into sports. And so when the various teams, when we were told that they were potentially looking at Andre, that's some of the stuff we helped him with. Mm-hmm. We gave him a rundown on what the baseball team had did, what the hockey team did, if they had a soccer team. So we were filling in all of those areas. And like if he was on a radio interview, we had a little notepad. We were writing notes. Okay, say this. And so, we were just a team. And he just made it so, the experience was beautiful. That was the first time I had been to New York. I had been to Washington, D.C., but I had never been as far as the East Coast, other than Boston for the school trip. That was the first time I had been to New York. The NBA made it a wonderful experience to allow us to get out and move around and show us different things. But it was an awesome experience. It wasn't hectic. It wasn't stressful or anything. But Andre made it really easy for us.
Did he have a preferred team that he was hoping would choose him?
If he did, if I can recall, he did not tell us. Chicago kept saying they were going to take him because they had 2 picks in the top 10. And I think that year they had number 3 and number 7, I think. I'm not 100% sure, but I know they had 3, and they took Ben Gordon at 3. So Phoenix was there in the top 10, and they really wanted Andre. And so Chicago said they were going to take him at 3, and then they didn't. And then they were supposed to take him again, and I forget, they took Luol Deng next. And so Philly was the only one that said, we're going to stay at 9. If he's available at 9, we're going to take him. So Chicago screwed up 1 through 10 for a lot of people because 1 through 10 wanted Andre. Well, besides 1, because it was Dwight Howard went 1. But Chicago messed it up. And Chicago was disappointing. They were challenging, but I did not want him to go to Chicago because that was too close to home. Right. But, and I was never really a big Chicago fan.
Yeah, you said that you were a Trailblazers fan.
Yeah, I'm a Portland Trailblazers fan. And that's crazy because I'm from Kansas City, Missouri. And I came to Springfield in 77 when I was a sophomore in high school. And I was still at home it's 3 girls, I'm the youngest. And I was left at home with 4 boys. So whatever they liked, I liked. And so no one was a Kansas City Chiefs fan, but we were Kansas City Royals fans, the baseball team. And I'm still a Royals fan, but I am a diehard fan. I don't care win, lose, or whatever. I am a fan. I am still I'm a San Francisco 49ers fan. And, well, I'm not Portland anymore because of Drake.
Yeah. I was going to say. So you're sitting there and you're anticipating him going between top 10. But now it's actually real. Now they actually call his name out. 76ers, your baby's 9th pick. What's going through your head now? Now that it actually happened.
it's like for the whole process, meaning going back to high school, when the colleges started looking at him, then you go through the college process, and now he's a prospect for the NBA, and then all of what you go through, and then you finally get there and he's picked, it's like you just drop and it's like, okay, God, this part is over with. You exhale in that moment, you exhale, and it's like, okay, let's get ready to do this. You know, the next thing that fell on my head was I had a 19-year-old going to Philadelphia.
Yeah.
And I knew he would be okay, and he was ready for it. His brother graduated college the next month because he went to summer school, and so he finished college. So now I have a 19 and a 20-year-old that's going to Philadelphia.
Wow. Yeah.
And so I was still, as a mom, you're still nervous. I know this kid can handle it. I know he's fine, but as a mom, I'm like, he's still 19.
Yeah.
And so that was if I have to say, out of the entire draft first year in the NBA, was him being 19 going to Philadelphia. That's when I think reality just kind of hit me like, oh hell, what am I gonna do?
Yeah.
You know, because I really didn't want to move to Philadelphia because I felt like it would stagnate him, because Frank and Andre are mama's boys in the true sense of mama boys. And I felt like I was going to stagnate their growth.
Right.
And so once we got over all of the fanfare and got on the train the next day and went to Philly, we had a meeting on the parking lot. We had dinner at Outback Steakhouse. And it was like, okay, come on, y'all. They knew I was nervous. And it was like, Mom, I'm going to be fine. I'm going to be fine. Okay. Because I knew in that moment, Andre was going to try me, because if it's one that knows how to push my button, it's him, because he is every bit of me. And what I don't like about me, I can see it in him. So it was like, let's go outside on the parking lot, because we need to talk. And if you say something smart, all of us, we are very vocal, and God is still working on us with filter of today. And so it was like, you get smart with me in this restaurant, it's going up. It's going up.
You're still mom.
Yeah, and I'll still go. It still go. They know I'm 57, and I still will get with them. It's like, no, I will still get with them. So we go out on the parking lot, and we just had a family meeting about what I needed them to do to make me feel secure and feel okay with them in Philadelphia. And he did. He started off with, Mama, I don't want you coming out here. He said, I don't want you out here. It's like, I'm fine. I'm going to be fine. And so I flew out once a month. That was the final agreement. I flew out once a month, and, they were not the tidiest. Let me say this, when I went out there once a month, it was like, this is not the house y'all grew up in.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm going to need y'all, just don't stop bathing. I did. I just don't stop bathing.
At the very least.
But they got it together. They did good. It was never any issues. They did good. That first year, and I just love him to death for it. He did everything to show me that he was going to be okay.
Right.
And I felt good about it. And so I got rid of 2 kids at the same time.
So let's talk about his rookie year. What was that like, seeing, first of all, your baby? He got his own jersey, he got his own number. I mean, this is real. Yeah. Like, he's actually up there playing. Like, what was that like for you guys? Like, did you go to the first game?
I did. the first year we went to quite a few games. Again, but they were mostly home games because I was still working and my husband was still working. And so it wasn't that I couldn't leave when I wanted to. I had positioned myself as far as seniority where I could get up and I could travel with my job, but I was into the midst of my career, in the midst of finishing up my associate degree and started working on my bachelor's.
Right.
And so I felt it was an opportunity for me to finally do something with me.
Yeah.
And so we went to mainly home games, and maybe we stayed 3-4 days, but seeing him play, it was like, watching him on that big stage, and just, I can remember the fans, because fans find out who you are, and that. Yeah. You can go into an arena, they're going to find out who you are. And then even interacting with the Sixers staff, it was like, you guys are always smiling. And they just loved that we were smiling all the time. And it was like, this is just, this was just awesome and amazing. But it was a couple of times Dre caught me being a fan. I'm looking at, all these actors and actresses and all these, Philadelphia Eagles players there. And one particular game, he went down and he did this just monster dunk. And we happened to lock eyes. And he said on the floor, because I'm sitting close enough to hear him, he said, "You're not even looking." And I wasn't looking, but I played it off and I'm just rooting. And so I'm stargazing, and it's like just the whole environment, and it's so much going on. And it's like, Andre, I'm from I've lived in Springfield, 117,000 people here. You may see the same person 3 times in one day. So like, this is huge, this is big. So he forgave me for that.
Did you imagine that he'd be playing with Allen Iverson?
I would have never imagined that. Allen he's a beautiful spirit, a beautiful soul. Again, what you see and read in the media, they put a spin on it. They adjust the narrative to fit the wow effect, or what have you. But the guy that I met, the Allen Iverson, the answer that I met was all those guys in the NBA, and even now, they're all mama's boys, first of all. Yeah. Yeah. And then secondly, they love the mothers or the families that show up to support their sons or whatever. And like I said earlier with Andre, they just want that normalcy. Right. They just want somebody that, like with Allen, he could just sit and laugh and talk with us. And my husband is the funniest, most humorous person. I mean, we both will have you in stitches. There's never been a day that we woke up that, first of all, God blessed us, and then God gave us a great sense of humor. You would crack up laughing being around us because we're the silliest people you ever want to meet. And we got a chance to share that with Allen, and he just loved it. And the thing with him, every time he saw me, he was just like, your son acts and looks just like you. I mean, and he was just so fascinated with that. But I mean, it was just awesome and amazing because Aaron McKee and Allen, and it was one other, I still can't think of that one other guy's name. They took Andre under their wing, mm-hmm. and they just really, they really watched out for him. And then later, he had came out of Sacramento, the Sacramento Kings. I don't know why I can't think of people's names, but it was another one that came in, and they just took Andre under their wings like a little brother, and they just took real good care of him. But I was very vocal from the standpoint, y'all get my baby caught up in something y'all have not seen hell. Anything happened to my baby.
Wow.
But I do issue threats.
I can imagine. Yeah. You're not the mom that we want to mess with, right? But you know what? You got to do what you got to do.
No, and I say what I mean. I mean what I say. Andre will, if you've read his book, Andre will definitely, she says when and my husband told me when we first got together, reflecting back, it's like, it's rare you meet a person that tells you what they're going to do and they actually do it.
Yeah. Well, he played with 76ers with 8 seasons, I believe, right?
9
yes. Seasons. Okay. And I think midway through, Allen left, or Allen was traded, and then it became Andre's. It was his thing. It was his game. That's right. Then Andre got traded. But the nature of the game, right? You get traded at any point. You never know what's going to happen. I know he declined an offer and signed with the Warriors and became an NBA champion. I mean, not once, not twice, but 3 times. I mean, come on now. Come on now. So let's talk about the first championship, Mom. You're sitting there. The season's going great, and then he becomes a champion. I mean, come on now. Let's talk about that.
Wow. The Warriors, I'm still trying to get over the Warriors. Matter of fact, I've had to go online and buy some Miami Heat apparel because I have so much Warrior stuff. I can probably for an entire year wear nothing but Warriors and never run out of it. And so the first year there, it was like, wow, you have to experience being in the Warriors arena.
Yeah.
That is a whole nother level fan. And so, back to your question, moving back to that first championship, it was basically like, man, this shit getting ready to happen.
Yeah.
This is getting ready to happen. And so, you have to look at where he was at in his career at that point. Right. And where we were at in terms of our own individual lives as parents, as just ourselves as individuals with our careers and where we were headed. And everybody was in such a good place at the same time. It allowed us to absorb and just enjoy that entire experience. And it was awesome. It was amazing. I mean, it was like, just like I said, dang, this is getting ready to happen.
Yeah. I mean, there's a reason why the Warriors are like one of the best teams ever, right? And you could see that they gel together. You know what I mean? It's like you see that culture within the team.
And that's what it is. They have a unique culture.
Right. And then they went and did it again. How dare they?
They went and did it again. And it was almost expected at that point. Because, well, in between, Cleveland beat us 2015. Andre also won MVP. Mm-hmm. And if you Google, I'm up there on the stage with him. And I'm like, and so then, 2016, Cleveland beats us. And then we come back, 2017 and 18. And in 2017, it was basically from the start of the season till we won again that, no, we're going to win this. And Andre was very confident. Oh, we got this. We see what we did wrong in 2016. And so then it was expected in 2018. And so, 3 championships. And so it was just the most heartwarming part. I have to say heartwarming because I'm an emotional person, was Andre's son being able to be there and went through the whole thing with him. I got an interview with Little Dre when it's 2015 when his dad won, and so everybody's getting some type of interview. Somebody interviewed me, somebody interviewed my husband, somebody was interviewing, I think it was TNT was interviewing Andre. And Little Dre, I looked up and Little Dre is sitting there, and he actually said, nobody wants to talk to me.
Oh.
And so I whipped my phone out and I started interviewing him. And it was just, that's the highlight for me.
Yeah.
Was Little Dre. And so later on, and this is the 2015 championship, Big Dre went on one of the Tonight Show or something like that. And Little Dre for Father's Day had made his dad a replica of the NBA championship trophy. And that was before, they made it early, like in April.
Right.
If I can recall. And so, the championships are way in June. And so watching Little Dre go through, to be there and be old enough, because, he traveled with us, we traveled with them, and just watching him. And then my other grandson, they're 9 months apart, he joined us in Cleveland for, for some games. And so just them having that experience, that was more heartwarming for me than the overall Andre winning the championship, because it was expected.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Okay, that's true. I mean, but at the end of the day, how many NBA players can say that they accomplished winning 3 championships? I mean, it's not
right.
It's
Right.
not too many, unless they play for the Warriors, apparently, right? So, so now with this COVID, I mean, everything came to a hiatus. I mean, for a minute, but with Andre being this entrepreneur,
yes,
did this time off basketball give him time to really focus on a lot of the ventures that he's engaged in?
Oh wow, it didn't stop. I mean, he actually works for Comcast.
Yeah.
And he and another young lady, I don't know her, I've not met her.
Mm-hmm.
They hired Andre and this young lady to head up their something, I don't know the official title, but like their minority division, where their core responsibility is, because Comcast doesn't have a good relationship with the minority community,
right?
In which they, have services. And so this is exclusively what Andre and this young lady does. And he's, I mean, when they shut the season down, I can remember him calling me early one morning, and he's like, "Mom, I'm on my way to work," And so I don't know where he was going, but eventually it ended up him having to work from home, and he's still doing that, as well as, his other, venture capitalist things that he's doing. But he's staying very, very active and very busy. And as a matter of fact, this Zoom is, one of the benefits that Andre jumped on board with when nobody else jumped on. And see, he picked up on Zoom several years ago, because, matter of fact, it's 4 years ago. Mm-hmm. He and his business manager at the time, and they're now partners, they started the Tech Summit out in San Francisco. Yes. And so that took off bigger than he thought it would. He had to change the venue. He had to, open it up, because I remember Jackie Joyner-Kersee calling me and said, "Tell Dre I want in." And at the time, it was only basketball players. And so last year, he opened it up to everybody. Basketball, baseball, hockey, track people were there. And I remember him being really excited about that. And so that was something that was needed, especially in the business of basketball, to help these guys understand that they are a business. Right. And, and a lot of times people will use the expression, well, we ain't hit the lottery. Well, lottery people, if you look at the statistics on them, they're broke within a year.
Yeah.
So, it's being frugal with your money and understanding investing in yourself and investing in your future, and basically putting family in perspective, extended family in perspective, that, I work for a living. I don't have just an open checkbook
Right.
and we're just going to write a check every time, something goes wrong, because that's something that Andre understood on his journey to the NBA, that you wanted to be in the NBA. This is your money. This is you as a business, because what he's most proud of, and I love that, what he's most proud of in myself and his stepdad, that financially we're fine. We're fine from the perspective that we have grown accustomed to our style of living, not Andre's.
Right.
I don't live in a $3-4 million house because I don't have $3-4 million money.
Right.
But I live in the house that, if anything should go wrong with Andre, Linda and Leonard are fine.
Right. Right.
And those are some of the things that that he talks about too, because every year, well, except for this year, the NBA draft, they have him come and speak to the guys during the 3-day draft school.
Oh, the transition?
Yeah.
The rookie transition. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. They have Andre come in and speak.
But you know what? Things like that are good, because he said in an interview that people wouldn't even think that a basketball player would be interested in technology. And that is so true.
Yeah.
That is so true. And for him to go back and speak to players is great, because a lot of them don't understand how to invest their money, or like, you know what I mean? It's like you're at a certain point in your life, and some of these players went from nothing to something.
Right.
You know what I mean? And you're only, your capacity, your mental capacity can only go so far. I mean, if you're used to getting nothing and all of a sudden you're like this multimillionaire, I mean, you don't know how to deal with that money, and that's hard, which brings a lot of mental health, a lot of mental stress.
It does. It does. Because if generational wealth has not followed you, you don't understand it.
That's right.
And you're right. You're looking at somebody who his mom and dad were taking care of him. And, you have to ask me for money. You have to ask me for this, that. And then practically 24 hours later, you are a millionaire. You make more money than the person that was taking care of you.
Yeah.
There has to be a foundation that, regardless to if he became a millionaire or not, there has to be a foundation of responsibility that is established from the beginning. And that is what was always instilled in Andre. Math is his favorite subject. He loves math. Andre still talks about, one day I'm going to be a math teacher.
Wow.
And that basically bore from, you don't let somebody else count your money. So you need to know math. You need to understand the different levels of math and how it relates to what you're trying to accomplish. And that is being able to sit down and somebody's talking to you about your money. Oh, you need to understand what they're saying, because what we never allowed with Andre, because I didn't turn things over to him until he was 23.
Right.
And it was basically, we never gave anybody signature rights. Right now to this day, Andre still signs all of his checks. Andre still sees all of his bills. If $2 comes out of Andre's check, okay, where did that $2 go?
Right.
And that came from the blueprint of home. Count your own money. And don't let anyone get comfortable with counting your money. If you need to fire somebody every 3 years, you need to fire somebody every 3 years, because they got too comfortable with counting your money. And he grew up watching me and his stepdad in terms of business. He always thought we were mean. He was like, y'all mean. No, we're not mean. We understood our business,
right,
and what it entailed and how it affected and impacted us. And we made decisions based on that. And it may not have been favorable to the person that we were interacting with, but we were just straightforward and in your face that, oh, this is not going to work, so we're not going to do it. And so he, in some of, jumping to his book, some of his interviews, I've watched him talk, and it just amazes me at how much he watched me and how much he observed me. And, you know, we take lightly when people say, you know, kids watch everything you do. And I think we take that too lightly, because listening to him talk now is like, I never realized he watched me to the depth that he did, because me and Andre fought so much, you know, and it just helped me to see now that he liked what he saw, and it worked for him. And he began to, over the years, incorporate different things that he saw would work for him, and it worked for me. And maybe he tweaked it or changed it or whatever, but it's still just, you know, that blueprint has to be established early, regardless to if they end up owning a chain of McDonald's, regardless to if they end up working a 9 to 5, they end up in the NBA, the NFL, or whatever. Fundamentals of finances and understanding business has to be established.
Of course. It's like everything that you've done as a mom has helped him be level-headed today.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you're saying you guys fought a lot, but at the same time, he, you know what I mean? Like, he's seen the strength in you, and he's like, I'm just going to be just like her. She may get on my nerves, but you know, she's me. So
he was allowed to tell me that was we were a home with respect. He was allowed to be vocal.
Right.
Both he and his brother were allowed to be vocal. That is so critical of parents with their kids, because, you know, we come from an era you weren't allowed a voice.
Right.
If you questioned anything or even gave a side eye the wrong way, you were completely shut down, you know, in a physical way. And so it challenged that we were faced with that challenge as adults, because we were not used to having that voice. And the thing with me being number 6 of 7 kids, I challenged my mom on everything.
Right.
And I got on her nerves just like Andre got on mine, because it was always why?
Right.
Why? I don't understand. Why? And you could not, I refuse to accept because I said so. Well, just because you're my mom and you're bigger than me, I don't have to accept that. I got slapped in the mouth a lot. Now, don't get me wrong. I got slapped a lot, but I always said when I had children, the one thing I constantly said, if I had kids, I was going to give my kids a voice.
Right.
My kids were going to be able to say to me, I don't like you today. You're being fussy. You're acting like, you know, women, we can be fussy and emotional. And when I went through those fussy, emotional times, they were allowed to say, you're getting on my nerves. You're just fussing about, you know, blah, blah, whatever. Or, you know, school, for example, my kids conducted their own parent-teacher conferences. I just sat there and observed.
Right.
And they should be allowed to say to this teacher, I agree or I don't disagree. Right. I agree or disagree, but engage in conversation about how you're teaching me. And the only time I would step in is if I felt like it was going in a direction that maybe they weren't able to handle, or they took it in the wrong direction. I would mediate, basically. But they are used to having a voice. They are used to saying and expressing themselves. And they've been doing that since a young age, because Andre started off stuttering. And that is common in our family, especially in the males. And I can remember them wanting to put him in a special ed class. And I realized my son had a stuttering problem. I'm trying to figure out why the teacher don't understand that he's got a stuttering problem. It's obvious that something was going on with his communications, but why did he need to be put in special ed?
Right.
But one of the things that I learned early as a Black mother with two Black males, that is common. I did my homework. When you look at who is in those special ed classes, number one is males. Mm-hmm. Number two is predominantly Black males. And I noticed that every time a special grant came out through the district, it always targeted special ed. I fought from K through 12, keeping my two Black sons out of special ed. Yeah. And my kids stayed in high honor classes, but I had to fight keeping them out of special ed. And so I fought him going into a special class because he stuttered. And it's like, I stutter also, but what I taught Andre at home, when you get to a word and you feel like that word is going to be challenging, go to another word that's easier for you to say and just keep the conversation going, or don't say the word at all. So I worked with him on that, as well as working in the school, because it was like, my son doesn't need to be in no special ed class because he stutters, and we worked through it. And then because he had that slight stutter, I used to have him stand in front of me at home, read me this book. You stand there and you read this book to me. And then I taught him how to look away from the book. And, you're reading and you're looking up. You're reading and you're looking up. And I would give him challenging books with words that were challenging. And we overcame that, and that's the investment you have to put in your kids.
I was just going to say that. I was just going to say, it shows that you as a mom, you invested in your son. You invested in him academically. You invested in him athletically. Now look at him. I mean, here's your son who did 16 years in the NBA. He played for Team USA. So twice, I believe, was Turkey and I want to say London. London. Yeah, Turkey and London he played. Yeah. I mean, come on now. He has 3 NBA championships. He owns 30 startup companies. He's invested in Zoom, Netflix. I love Netflix, by the way. Zynga, Datadog, all kinds of companies. You know what I mean? And then he wrote Sixth Man, and in his book, he talks about all these things. Like I think he referred it to as a memoir.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's good, because that's going to be a good. It's a good path to show players where to be. Oh, he's also VP of the Players Association.
Right,
I mean, Audrey's involved in everything, and that's and that is good. And that starts with you know what I mean, as his mom and all the teachings. Right. So my question to you, and one of my last questions, what do you think is one of the biggest mistakes a parent could make to get their child to the league?
Not allowing them to be children, allow them to grow.
Right.
Andre had an opportunity to play. Once he got out of middle school, Andre had a chance to play on older teams, varsity. I did not allow them to do that. I wanted Andre to enjoy his childhood. Right. It's one thing for me to, at that time, look at what potentially he was going to face once he got into that life of the NBA. It still was yet another, it was a whole nother story once we experienced it.
Right.
But knowing and having the notion that life was going to completely change, and I expressed that to him, is that your natural growing processes will change compared to someone who just gets up every day and go to 9 to 5, or somebody, just a regular person. You're not going to have that anymore. So it was important that I allow Andre to be 9, to be 10, to be 11, to be 15, 17, to allow him to grow, to allow him to enjoy his childhood. Because I always say it is nothing worse than a 60-year-old man acting like a damn 15-year-old. Let them grow. Let them enjoy life. Because if you understand from a spiritual perspective that God has anointed your child, what's supposed to happen is going to happen.
Right.
And you cannot rush it. You cannot make it happen any faster than it's going to happen. And then the process in which it's supposed to happen, right, staying within the spiritual guidance, it will go much easier versus if you go outside and allow yourself to be caught up in this carnal world and its messiness and make it even more challenging. Don't let somebody come and tell you your fifth grader is going to the NBA. You don't know that. Right. Because if you really think about it, even in your environment and the excellent players that you have been around, the best players are not in the NBA.
Yeah. Yeah.
They are not. And I have plenty of people who I went to school with that won't even speak to me on the streets or even acknowledge me because they have come to me and said, my kid's in the fourth grade and I got all these people saying he's going to the NBA. Well, how's he doing in school?
Well, yeah.
And it's like, the kid Andre played basketball with who was really elite. Richard was in the seventh grade and his path was laid. Richard is going to the NBA and Richard was actually better than Andre. Nobody expected that Richard would peak in the eighth grade. He never got any better or nothing changed with him. He won the eighth grade championship. That was it. Let your kids be kids.
Right.
And focus on them and their spirituality. Focus on them and their grades and the importance of investing in self and feeding themselves knowledge. Focus on them and their role in the family and them being a productive individual in society. None of those things have anything to do with the NBA.
That's right.
But should they make it to the NBA, that will help them in the NBA at that time. But in the formative years, the fundamental years, work on that blueprint, work on that foundation of building that character, building that good person, because whatever's supposed to happen is going to happen. If he does not end up in the NBA, like this kid that Andre grew up with, he works for the Miami. He said, he has a story that came out. I just read it. They did an article on him. He said, I was going to always be in the NBA. He is. He's in the NBA. Right. He's not playing, but he's in the NBA. Yeah. Allow them to be kids. Let them grow. I don't want to talk to somebody with a kid in the fourth, fifth, sixth grade about no NBA. I don't want to hear it. I want to hear about that kid being a kid because there was a lot of people, and I'll wrap it up. It was a lot of people that said how immature Andre was. No, Andre was a kid.
Right.
And he was allowed to be a kid. He was not, when he was 10, he was not 12. When he was 12, he was not 15.
Right.
And he stay in your lane. And that's and you'd be amazed at how that nurturing in that fashion will bring about just whatever God, and if you're in the spirit, God is going to reveal to you what that child is supposed to be doing.
Look, nurturing that's all we can give our kids to help them grow, right? And like you said, on the spiritual side, all we have to do is let God order our steps and everything will be great. And
let God order it.
You said it. Linda, thank you so much.
This was so much fun. Thank you.
I feel so blessed to speak to you, and I've learned so much more about Andre and yourself. You know what I mean?
That is, and I've learned, and I have not had an official opportunity to meet you and see you. I've heard you. I've listened to, like I said, I listened to your interview. Matter of fact, I did listen to it with Iris and Fred Van Vliet's mom.
Yeah.
And I think it's an excellent platform for us. I think we have a wealth of wisdom and knowledge to
right.
offer this audience, and I'm so glad and so happy that you are doing this, and just wish you all the blessings and continued success.
And thank you for allowing people in, you know what I mean, like in your family, and understand how you did it, because it's important, because you know what I mean, there's so many up and coming players that really don't know what to do, and without this information, you know what I mean, they're just, who knows where they'll end up. So blessings to you.
I'm always happy to share any new mom. I'm always happy to share, because I had a beautiful group of women that helped me in my journey coming into the NBA. Miss Fisher, Derek Fisher's mom, Jeannie Rose, Jalen Rose's mom, Shaquille O'Neal's mom, Miss Lucille, Ray Allen's mom, Flo. I had a beautiful group of women that helped me, and it's my responsibility and my duty to keep that going.
That's right. It's mothers like us that will help the up and comings, right?
Right.
So thank you so much, Linda. Please keep in touch.
Most definitely. Most definitely. And you be blessed.
Thank you. Thanks for coming on Courtside Moms Love.